individuals who have significant grant experience in some very different areas, and I've asked them to talk for 5 minutes or so about some of their experience, maybe a little bit longer than that, and then we'll have time for discussion and questions. And I already have some questions for you as well. We'll start with Evans.
Thanks. And I just threw some slides together because I can't keep track of one idea, or more than one idea at a time. I am coming from a background in sciences. My discipline is plant biology and plant taxonomy. And more recently, I've been working in science and science education. So I have a grant history that goes back to my master's degree program. So it's certainly built over the years. And when I got into the grant writing process, it was certainly without a lot of introduction to the process. It was more along the lines of my major professor saying, you know, you really need to get some money to pay for this project if you want to do it. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay for it yourself. And here, write a proposal to this state agency. That pretty well describes my introduction to proposal writing. And then when I got into my PhD program, I went, the field I was in, plant taxonomy, is not a field that tends to be supported by very large center-type grants. And so my major professor approved my research topic, but then it really was largely up to me to get a lot of funding to complete that project, and I was successful with that as well. So now I'm looking at getting grants from a few years perspective, and I did look at it in a little more organized format. So when you're starting, first thing you want, why do you pursue extramural funding? Because it takes a lot of effort to write the grants, to develop a fundable proposal. So it takes a lot of effort on the front end with no guaranteed payoff. So why do this? When do you start? We'll get into that, but it depends on when you start. How do you start? Again, very much based on your discipline, the type of research you do. And then the last question, when do you finish? Well, I'm not sure what the answer to this one is. There's no end in sight as far as I'm concerned, and I've been doing this for a while. But I think the answer to the first question is that if you can get external funding, then that lets you spend a significant amount of your professional time doing something that you are invested in, that you're interested in doing. There are other reasons, depending on how your employment agreement's set up, you may be required to seek outside funding. It allows you to support your research. It allows you to support student research, or you may have a research group that needs to be supported. Your professional advancement may require, it may depend on showing research funding productivity. But I think the bottom line is that with external funding, it gives you a degree of control over where and how you spend your time professionally. Okay. Now all my experience as a student was in biology. And biology tends not to, at that point in time, several years ago, tended not to work as big research groups. Biologists tended to work more as individuals or a researcher with students. Now, of course, with molecular biology, there is, that's research in biology is becoming more like a lot of the research I was familiar with in chemistry, where chemists tend to have fairly large research groups with professor, with postdocs, with multiple graduate students. If you are working independently, you may start writing grants early in your graduate student career. If you're working, if you come as a student into a funded research group, your research project may be a piece of the group project and funding be provided as a graduate research assistant. So you really start at a point where you are becoming an independent researcher. And that's going to vary between graduate school, your first job. There are grant opportunities for postdoc funding where you can write your own proposal to get funded as a postdoc. And that may be a starting point. In science, in most programs, when you're hired, then there is an expectation that you will pursue research funding. And if you have a startup package, that startup package is typically set up to give you a little bit of a boost, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then you're expected to continue to supplement that through funded research. In some cases, your program can be a research, it can be an education, it can be a service project, may be supported entirely by grant funds. And the project I've been most recently funded for is the MASS program, which is here on campus. And that program is supported exclusively by external funds. So your job may depend on it. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, what did you say, the AMAS project or something?
The AMASS project is funded on, got the funding in late last year. It's a program for enhancing STEM programs on campus. And you'll be hearing a lot more about it. We've got, it funds some faculty development opportunities, it funds some programs for students. So when we're rolling on that. So there are multiple reasons for seeking external funding. Where do you start? And this can be a big challenge when you're first starting. If possible, find someone who can mentor you in this process. And we are really fortunate now because we have Donna, who has shepherded many researchers through their early and mid-level career proposal writing. Because a good mentor can keep you from, they can speed up your success rate in getting external funding. Now, a lot of this depends on what your discipline is. As a botanist, I would not go to the National Institute of Health for research funding. As a conservation botanist, I have actually had a lot of success with funding through state agencies who may be, who may have state funds, or they may be flow-through channels for federal funds like U.S. Fish and Wildlife.